This is the explanation of your skill for apical pulse. So you can look at the video that shows you the demonstration, but this is just going over the actual skill. So remember, just like the other ones, you're going to do all of those same first 7 or 8 steps. You always want to get your vital signs beforehand. You need to verbalize that. You're going to make sure you have a stethoscope and a watch with a second hand. So you do need that for this skill. You want to clean your earpieces and diaphragm of your stethoscope. Make sure your patient is in the correct position. So supine, they can be laying or they can be in a sitting position where we can get to the left side of the chest. Or they could be a left lateral recumbent position for murmurs. So something that you just may want to know for your information. To implement the procedure, you will be showing us the different landmarks on the poster board, like the demonstration showed you. So the different areas that you will need to know are the aortic, pulmonic, Erb's point, tricuspid, and the mitral or PMI. Okay, I'll go over that here in just a minute. So what you'll do is you'll have your stethoscope out and standing by the poster, and we will tell you, show us these different areas, and you will point them out to us. Okay, so make sure you know them. Don't just know them in this order, because we'll probably tell you in a different order. Okay. Also, then at the end, after you've done that, after you've identified all of the landmarks, you will be listening to a pulse rate for 60 seconds. So that's why you need your second hand watch, so that you can keep track of your time, and you'll be counting that pulse rate for 60 seconds. You will then tell us what you get, and do some patient teaching with this skill. I believe we're going to be combining this skill with your lung sound skill, so you could either teach on something related to the heart or something related to the lungs. So you can choose that, and we'll go over how the skill will go in lab when we put both of them together. Okay. You always want to make sure you, afterwards, you're washing your hands, you're making sure your patient's safe, you are documenting your findings. When you count that apical pulse, you do need to be within 2 beats above or below. So again, just similar to the blood pressure scale, if the patient's heart rate is 70, if you told us anywhere between 68 and 72, then you would be correct. Okay. You do get to use your what's the word I'm looking for? Your self-checks with this as well. So if you're counting and you're thinking, oh, I'm not sure, then you could start over. You can do that. If you forgot to do something, remember you do get those 2 self-checks. Let me move on down. So this is showing you, this little diagram here shows you the different places where you're going to be identifying for the apical pulse skill. When you're looking at this, let me make this larger actually. Let's do that. Make it larger so you guys can see it. When we're looking at this, you are looking at these different intercostal spaces. So the intercostal space is the space between 2 ribs, and it is named for the rib above it. Okay, so like on the side here, they have the ribs are numbered. On the left side here, rib number 1 kind of goes up underneath that clavicle. This is the clavicle, right? There's other clavicle on this side. Here's your sternum in the middle. this is your first rib. So then right underneath that rib, that space, is your first intercostal space. This is your second rib. Underneath that is the second intercostal space. So you can see like the numbers in black, if you can tell that, are the ribs, and then the spaces in between are the intercostal spaces. So for this skill, like I said, you're going to be showing us the different landmarks or different places that you would listen. This one is on the patient's right side. So that first space there is the apical space, okay? That's where you're going to listen to the apical area, and that is in the second intercostal space on the right side, right by the sternum, okay? The next one, just moving straight across here to the left side, everything else is on the left side, is the second intercostal space on the left, and this is the pulmonic area, okay? Moving on down to the third intercostal space, this is Erb's point, okay? And then the fourth intercostal space is the tricuspid area. Then your fifth intercostal space is actually mid-clavicular, so the middle of the clavicle, and then you count down to the fifth intercostal space, and that is the apical pulse. Okay, the apical pulse is named for the apex of the heart. It's named, which is the point of the heart, at the bottom. It's also named, it's also sometimes called the mitral area, because that's where you're going to hear a good, if someone has, you're going to hear the mitral valve in that area. It's also called the PMI, or point of maximal impulse. So this is the best place to listen to get a good, accurate pulse, heart rate, because you're listening to the actual beating of the heart, okay? So these other areas are used sometimes. You can listen to the heart in those areas and you'll hear different things. So like in the aortic area, if somebody has if someone has a problem in that aortic area, if they have a murmur, which is something that we're not really worried about in 101, but these are different places that you might be listening. So if they had an aortic murmur, that would be the good place to hear that. If they have a pulmonic murmur, the second intercostal space on the left side would be a good place to hear that. Okay, so those are the different spaces. So again, it's aortic, and then pulmonic, Erb's point, tricuspid, and then the mitral, or PMI, or apical. Okay, so those are the different landmarks that you'll need to point out to us when you do this skill.